And tonight, as we kind of get kicked off here, to enter the question queue, please, as a reminder, hit *3. That's *3 for questions, and *6 to join our newsletter, which I believe is our best way to communicate with you all. A weekly newsletter that kind of talks about what some of the areas we're up to, what legislation we're running, highlighting things from the district, and so on. So today, it's been a very busy day. We've had a lot going on, been involved in some really exciting things, and I'd like to share that with you. Most importantly, it is tax day, and I wanted to host this town hall today so we could talk about why this year is so unique and significant. You've heard me talk about this many times before, but we had a significant tax reform bill passed last July 4th, 9 months ago. In 2017, there was a significant pro-growth tax reform effort that was successful. It's commonly referred to as Trump tax cuts, but this is a moment when there was congressional Republicans that were in control of the White House, House and Senate, and over the White House. So the official name is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017, and we've had 8 years or so to monitor that, vet that, understand how that impacted the economy, what it did to tax revenues, and the like. And it's had a very successful run. And most of everything in that tax reform piece was going to expire at the end of the year, on December 31st of 2025, if we didn't get that bill done last summer. And so what we did in that effort, and this was a Republican-only effort, there was many provisions that I think are incredibly bipartisan, but it was something that Democrats were they made it very clear they wanted Republicans to go alone at this one. We had some significant spending cuts as well that have proven to be and will continue to be very very productive ways to reduce waste and things like that. But the tax portion of it is it would have been much different tax day, I'll say this, if we hadn't have accomplished that and got that done last July. And I've joked before in Congress, as you rightfully probably accuse Congress, everything gets done at the last minute or the midnight deadline. And we got the tax reform done, made it permanent on so many levels. We got it done 6 months prior to the actual deadline, or what I would have viewed as a major crisis if we hadn't have gotten that done before December 31st. But we did it 6 months prior. And many of the provisions were retroactive into the 2025 year, so you are able to take advantage of those on this year's taxes, because it would have gone up significantly had we not gotten that bill done. The child tax credit would have gone back to $1,000. It's now at $2,200. That's a significant way that we can help middle and lower income Americans, particularly support working families, and many other provisions like that would have just been sort of wiped away. We not only extended them but made them permanent. Look, the key is making sure that you keep more of what you earn. The government does not know how to spend your paycheck better than you do. By doing that, we actually see good, strong economic growth and increased revenues as well. So it's when you lower taxes, make them competitive, you have a unique phenomenon that takes place, and we've seen it since 2017 and on the early ends of this. So again, I'm going to talk about some specifics of that, but I want to jump into questions as soon as we can. *3 to jump in the question queue, and *6 to sign up for our newsletter. And we'll spend the hour together and get through as many questions as possible. But I know affordability is one of Utahns' top concerns. And so we've worked for over a year and a half, and really since I got onto Ways and Means over 3 years ago, we've been working on seeing this day come to fruition. Refunds this year were 11% higher than last year. That's significant. More than 53 million filers claimed at least one of these new signature tax cuts more than 6 million filers claim no tax on tips. That's an average benefit of over $7,000. More than 25 million filers claim no tax on overtime. It's actually more significant than we had expected, with an average benefit of over $3,000. 30 million claimed the enhanced deduction for seniors, averaging over $7,500. Again, it's communicated as no tax on tips, but the reality is it's an enhanced standard deduction for seniors, and that's been many seniors have been able to claim that. More than a million filers claim no tax on car loan interest. I was one of them. You drive in an American-made or assembled car, you can take your loan and your interest deduction from that. 5 million, and I think this is what I'm most excited about, 5 million Trump accounts have been opened. And they haven't even started or kicked off yet. That's a July 4th thing. So make sure you're signing up your children. If you're a grandparent, make sure your grandkids are getting signed up for these. You can go to the Treasury website, trumpaccounts.gov, and take a look. It's key. Enhanced child tax credit was claimed by more than 34 million families, and more than 105 million filers claimed the permanently double standard deduction. The standard deduction that we've done through this pro-growth tax policy is the thing that we all talk about. It's simplifying the tax code. And it established it in 2017, and we made it permanent, and so there's very little threat of it going down. When President Trump signed the Working Family Tax Cuts into law on July 4th, it was more than just a legislative achievement. It's a recommitment to our founding values of liberty and putting power back in the hands of the people. So it's a really, really unique thing. So I hope we can talk more about it. We sent out a survey, and we kind of wanted to see how people were reacting to it. And so thanks, and appreciate you letting me sort of geek out on this stuff, but this matters. These are significant legislative achievements. Some other really exciting news that came out today. For the 19th year in a row, Utah is ranked #1 for economic outlook. This ranking looks ahead, and it continues to point to Utah as a place where families can succeed, businesses can grow, and opportunity is within reach. It's all about upward mobility, wage growth, and the like. So Utah Senate President Stuart Adams and Speaker of the Utah House Mike Schultz and many other hardworking legislators joined the federal delegation today in D.C. to hold a press conference and a panel that highlighted Utah's success and commitment to leading America's economic turnaround. This is a ranking from Rich States, Poor States, Alec Laffer State Economic Competitiveness Index. It's unique because it measures which states are best positioned for future growth and opportunity, including where jobs will be created and where wages will rise, and we want communities to thrive. So for nearly 2 decades, we're talking 19 years in a row, Utah has led, and we make decisions with the future in mind. So our state continues to be one of the best places in the country to find opportunity, build a career, create a better future or next generation. So #1 state overall, #1 in upward mobility, protecting children's mental well-being, #1 in GDP growth, increase in household income, best states for teachers, #2 best states for teachers, #4 state for education. These aren't just arbitrary numbers and rankings. They translate to real tangible benefits for Utahns. It's neat. So grateful for our hardworking state legislators and what they're doing in Utah. And it's great with the federal delegation talk today about being an outside voice for what is so good going on back home. And that's not something that should be taken for granted. 19 straight years, and I anticipate 20, and we'll get back there. We talked a lot about that today. So again, *3 to enter the question queue, and *6 to join the newsletter. And we will jump to questions. And so I appreciate folks being on. All right, let's do Carolee Fisher from Mill Creek. Carolee, are you on?
Yep, I am. Take that speaker. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, so here is what my question is, and then I have a comment as well. I want to know how you really truly feel about the center that is being built out on the west side, or it's actually out there already, that DHS purchased for the undocumented immigrants, because it was DHS purchased it for several tens of millions of dollars more than what it was actually worth. And KSL had a story last Friday about how DHS actually only purchased half of the building. The other half is still owned by the original owner, but yet DHS is going to own or operate the full amount. So I'm wondering actually what is going on with that.
Love it. No, great question. And good context there. Actually, how I understand it too, I don't know the specific numbers, but it was purchased for much more than value. And as a fiscal conservative, I can't be excited about something like that. So that is a frustrating element, because we have talked many times in whatever circles we can do. We're not, we as a federal delegation are not involved in making these decisions. There needed to be more stakeholder involvement, because I do believe there are locations that this would have been a net positive across the board. But this one has run into many issues, and when it's purchased for more than it's worth, like that's the kind of stuff we're trying to get away from, right? So I don't know what the fate of the purchase, if there's going to be a resale or what, but we've got to be doing things at fair market, and I think there was more opportunity for federalism to play a role here and having more buy-in from the local area. And so hopefully this can be rectified. The initial conversations I've had about this, again, I'm not heavily involved, but the number of people, assumed that would be located here is high numbers compared to what that building or structure would allow for, and not properly zoned. And those things all have to be worked out. And so I really hope this isn't something where there's been a lot of wasted money on, because that's literally what we're trying to really get away from. That's why we've been able to have the last year some success in reducing deficits. It's more sound decision making. So I don't know the exact fate. I'm not involved in those negotiations, but I do believe there are more opportunities that could have done this in a more fiscally responsible way. So thanks for calling on it. And I've heard, seen many of the things that you've talked about, and fiscal responsibility, it cannot just be a partisan thing. And so we've got to be smart about how that goes about. And I think there's more opportunities for connection. Thank you very much. Let's go to Janice in Roy. Janice, are you on? Again, folks, star three to ask a question. Jump in the question queue, and we'll get through as many as we can. Janice from Roy, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. I didn't know you knew I was from Roy already. But I do have a question. We live in a mobile home park on 1900, and in Roy, and I don't know how. The rent keeps increasing. They call it HOA, but it's space rent, and it just keeps increasing so much. I called your office today, and it seems like there's nothing nobody can do. What is it that we can do as citizens to start putting some kind of limits on this? It's going up more than 12%, and we just can't afford that anymore.
Yeah, it's from day one of my role in this. Thank you, Janice, and thanks for calling our office too. It's been consistent, and Utah is unique because there's so many positive things that are taking place that create opportunity and growth and whatnot. But these are the externalities or side effects that do happen, especially when we have a supply issue. We don't have enough supply to meet the demand, and continued strong economic outlook creates more demand. So of all the good indicators that are out there, wage growth, job opportunities and the like, this is one of the toughest. And every level of government has a role to play here. So this is also something that's easy to kind of pass the buck and say, oh, it's the state level. There's a lot of issues that are state and local levels that I can't control. Zoning, transportation issues, overlay on higher density units. Those are things that are going to be addressed from our from our state and local leaders that don't have it. But it's kind of like Congress has heard the call on this. One of the most significant pieces of legislation that we did in the House got over 400 votes to address many of these issues. It's not going to solve everything, but this is what we passed it already. The Senate passed a similar version with a few different provisions that are not going to be accepted over in the House. I mean, literally, there was 400, and there's only 435 members of it. It's like this is very bipartisan. Everybody sees there's issues. There's permitting reform associated with it. There's a lot of unique opportunities. And the Senate did basically the same thing, but there's a couple of provisions in the Senate that are problematic overall, and I actually don't think will help lower costs in it anyway. And the two bills are trying to get worked through what they do. But something that's a little bit more specific to what we put out is something called the SHARE Act. So this is basically an incentive for investors to share appreciation mortgage down payment assistance. And so it's not necessarily a rent consideration, but it helps people get into entry-level homes. If we as a government would just, make like what was being proposed by, I think Kamala Harris was, proposing, she was putting numbers to this, even though there's like everybody gets $25,000 for a first-time home, but like that's just going to make the cost of the house go up. Like anytime government tries to come in with, taxpayer-funded support programs like this, it doesn't really help. What are unique ways to do it are getting market-based solutions like an investor opportunity to share the burden of a down payment. And these are great ways for people to get assistance to help get into something, but they own it, and the investors are out after a few years. They make a meager return. It's not a big return. We've made this. It's important for some of these for the institutions that we've interacted with. But it's called the SHARE Act, and encourage folks to look into it. It's just a way to sort of market-based decision on helping get lower first mortgage interest payments into a point where we could get done. But again, this is a supply and demand issue, and Utah's got a lot of things that they've got to do on this front to provide enough supply and overlay it so it doesn't have the congestion and some of the growth issues. So we also did introduced a really unique bill that's related to the defense community. And so anything near a major military installation gets to be a part of some of the lower income housing opportunities, housing affordability that had a lot of momentum. It couldn't get across the finish line last summer, but it's still out there. And I know of actually somebody that's in our military community near Hill Air Force Base. He was today just talking to a general about it and some excitement. He's made literally. I just got a text him out about an hour or two ago. So a lot of different specific things. Definitely engaged locally, and I know that every level of government is concerned about this. So thank you so much. Let's go to North Logan with Dan Nelson.
Yeah, the question I have, you discussed the taxes and all that are done. It's all fine and good to give away the tax money, but what are we doing about the deficit? We're record high deficits, and frankly, no solution proposed that I've seen on Social Security, and no real hope of the budget turning around. The 2017 tax cuts, according to some people, were beneficial, but the reality is the deficit has kept going up, and I don't see that we're addressing that at all.
Yep, you're worried about the most important thing, Dan. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll share a little bit more context on it. So first and foremost, in calendar year 2025, we reduced the deficit by over $350 billion. That's more than a sizable chunk, right? It's not balancing, of course, but it is a sizable piece. It's the most I've seen since I've been here, and it is a very welcome change. So, that's a great thing, and we need to celebrate that, and we need to learn what we did in the last year and a half and try to replicate it. It's hard to maintain. Some of those things were one-time cuts, and there's other areas of the budget that continue to grow so much and so fast, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security over the long run is a high one. Those things have very high growth rates, and that's something we have to grapple with immediately. But that's a key thing. So reduce deficits over the last year. That's good. What we're also seeing, though, which I should have highlighted a little bit more on the front end, was that the CBO does the baseline for where we are on our revenue streams and spending. They have an anticipated, for 2026, baseline anticipated individual income tax receipts to rise by 3.6% in FY 2026. And that's the point that I made with when you lower taxes, it's obviously a great political argument to say, like, hey, lowering taxes, every politician wants to be able to communicate that. But what I like to also add into the layer is when you not only just lower taxes, but making them competitive, you are going to see a couple unique things happen: more economic activity, more economic growth, more people actually contributing in multiple ways towards those tax receipts, and you will see the revenue grow. And so from the 2017 tax cuts, you've actually seen revenue growth come from it. One example is if we have our international tax rate for intangible income at 16%, which is approximately where it was pre-2017, and Ireland has it at 13%. Well, in 2017, we basically put it on par with some of the other OECD nations. And in doing so, before 2017, we saw a ton of what are called inversions. U.S. multinational firms setting up tax domiciles overseas. Since 2017, there's been nothing but repatriations of those and no more inversions. And so companies, and they're not looking for overseas tax domiciles when we have competitive tax rates, corporate tax rates, small business tax rates, and in between, you're getting more revenue back here. So that's the international angle of it. But also, when you offer incentives for like R&D, hey, I'm going to get a tax incentive for an investment or a capital investment we make into our R&D, whether it be labor or equipment. Then all of a sudden, that equipment that you buy, that other company is also going to be paying their income taxes or their tax on that aspect, and boom, 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 you have things growing. So, big picture, we've seen good growth, or we've seen good deficit reduction over the last year. It's going to be hard to maintain unless we do some other couple of really unique things. One of them being the Fiscal Commission Act, which we passed last Congress. It almost got us to the floor. We're working hard on it. I met actually with a couple of our state legislators today with the chairman of the Budget Committee about the timing of that. And then my Comprehensive Congressional Budget Act, which is a key thing. I've talked about this many times, so I won't belabor it, but we only vote on 22% of our expenditures. We need to vote on 100% of it, and this bill would require us to vote on all. I'm more than happy to take a vote on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare programs, defense, veterans, anything. Take a vote on all of them. We need to make sure that we're seeing a responsible, constant reform to these programs and strengthening them as well. So I'm with you on that. I always feel a little uneasy when I talk about tax cuts because I know there's a lot of questions out there. And so I appreciate the chance to explain what I believe pro-growth tax policy and what the numbers are telling us as well is doing. When we lower taxes, we actually still increase our revenue. So it's not a deficit creator. We raise taxes too much, yeah, you might get an initial injection of revenue from tax receipts, but is it sustainable, or will people find different areas and companies find different areas to do? So that's a key aspect, and I need to do a better job of making sure when I talk about tax cuts that I'm talking about, it's also, by doing that, you're also still increasing revenues. Okay, *3 for questions, *6 for newsletter. Again, *3 questions, *6 newsletter. Let's go to Layton, Utah with Shane. Shane, are you on?
Hey, how's it going? So my main question is, since we now find ourselves in a prolonged conflict with Iran, what can Congress do to ensure that we snatch a victory from this in making the world and our economy a safer, more secure place?
Well, that would be, yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, Congress help Trump do this?
Great. That's the exact outcome. I mean, you articulated it perfect. A safer, more secure place, both for general security purposes, more secure economic opportunities ahead. Look, it is very difficult. I mean, when Republicans are in charge, folks expect a secure border and lower gas prices. This is a tough moment, and hopefully we can turn the corner on this quickly. I believe the policies that are in place with respect to energy are excellent and sound, and we can have a good, strong bounce back. But when other factors like this Iran conflict come up, they affect it. But that doesn't matter to you all. So I'm like, I didn't like the Biden policies that had a direct impact on gas prices, and I do like the President Trump and congressional Republicans' policies about it. But even though I'm confident in those and getting it, if it's what you experience at the pump that day, that's what every American is dealing with. So we've got to grapple with this. We've got to be in a better spot. This is a key thing. I was very supportive of exploring what we could come out of the ceasefire. I didn't love a lot of the communication. I know President Trump does a lot of things with respect to trying to create leverage here or there, but I wrote about it in my newsletter, and simply to say I was very encouraging. I talked to the speaker, communicated with the speaker. This is that moment to pull up, catch our breath, and let's explore this ceasefire. So current ceasefire is for 2 weeks. There were a few issues on the front end with respect to Lebanon, but we've got an opportunity here to, the market's settled a little bit. We've got an opportunity here to kind of see what the next steps are. After these 2 weeks, we either have to do a deal that opens the strait permanently, or there is going to be some type of military campaign resume in some regard. Ceasefire definitely opens an opportunity to calm the market, like I mentioned, and I think build a coalition. So the way to success here is we can build a coalition of allies. I do not hold any NATO ally that isn't helping in this right now accountable, because they weren't brought in on the front end. This was a U.S.-Israel operation. But I think this pause in this moment will give us a chance to help bring along a coalition of allies. The straits being closed is detrimental to all of us, and so I hope we can do that. So that's another aspect of how we move forward from here. I think Vice President had talked about, the simple fact is we need to see an affirmative commitment that Iran will not seek a nuclear weapon and or any of the tools that will enable them to quickly achieve that. That's going to be fundamental, and I think everybody recognizes there's willingness to talk about how to make this move going forward. I've said this numerous times. I've been through a lot of in-person stuff lately back home, and had a lot of chances to be in person with folks, kind of campaign related. But the same thing applies here. We've had very successful operations for being Venezuela. I'm still very bullish on that. Midnight Hammer with attacking nuclear facilities last June. This is far more difficult, and I would have liked, you have two things at play here. You have protesters that have been killed. I don't know specific numbers. It's not easy to understand or to truly know that. But I look back at our history and what we did in Bosnia when 7,000 people were killed at Srebrenica. That's genocide. When obviously World War II, and multiple times when we step in, That was a just cause. The uprising had happened and been thwarted before we were able to go in. It would have been nice to have been able to galvanize that a little bit, but that's not the way the timing worked out. And I wish we could have been in a place that people could have seen what I think is going to be a very positive Western Hemisphere activity on removing Maduro. I think that would have been a great thing for us to see play out. Everybody's forgotten about that already, but I think there's going to be real success there, and I'm confident that we can get Iran in that same direction. It's just very difficult because the two regimes are very different, and they're, this Ayatollah regime, this is very deep and wide with respect to IRGC, and we've still got difficult times ahead. It's not going to be very straightforward, but getting those tactical things done in the near term, I think, can help turn this around. I hope we're not back into just a military campaign with not being able to use this ceasefire to kind of see where we're going from here. So, and I know I think I share a lot of that with my colleagues from looking ahead from here. So thank you very much. Let's go to Corinne, the box elder with Catherine. Catherine, you on?
Yeah, I'm here. So I am concerned about non-domicile CDLs and chameleon carriers in the trucking industry, and I'm very worried about DHS not being funded, and especially, ICE. So I was wondering what you are going to do about the non-domicile CDL problem and the chameleon carriers in the trucking industry, first of all, and then the other DHS thing.
Well, DHS has obviously been a topic we've, unfortunately, we try to do these teletown halls at least once a month, and there's been too many teletown halls I've done recently where we're still in a non-funding stage of DHS. It's absurd. This should have been very simple. We were there. We had this basically locked up in January, and then Minnesota happened. I think the Democrats have been completely unreasonable on this aspect. And the Trump administration has signaled a few things since Minnesota. They've changed the Secretary of DHS. That's a big deal. That's a big change. Secretary Mullen now has indicated other areas of kind of coming together on some basic law enforcement things that reforms that they would agree to with respect to ICE, that I think are I think most citizens and folks would get and agree with, and so there's been a lot of good. They brought in Holman. They've done a change of leadership in Minnesota. I'm surprised that the Democrats didn't say in that case, like, hey, well, okay, we withheld funding for a minute, and we like that there has been a change. I thought they would have come on board after some of those things, but I think they're being completely unreasonable and definitely overplaying their hand. So we've supported DHS funding numerous times. We'll continue to do so. Here's where we're at with DHS funding quickly, and I'll just address the CDLs. We have a deal to do DHS funding in its entirety except for immigration control and enforcement and border control, so ICE and CBP. Those two items were funded heavily last summer in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and so there is plenty of money bucketed for those two, so they will have their funding. But we're just going to do them kind of in separate buckets. We're at an impasse that we've never been before, where Democrats just won't vote for any type of ICE funding, which is nuts because the basic operations of ICE are something that we've bipartisan agreed with for decades, as long as we can remember, as long as we can have had these appropriations bills in place. And so I think that's disingenuous to say the very least. But we've got plenty of funding associated and already planned for it. And we would actually do more to secure that going forward because we just don't know what kind of games will be played. And so the way that it plays out is you do a bipartisan bill on DHS, and then you do a Republican-only bill on ICE and CBP. we should be able to do back pay. We should be able to get and ensure that there'll be no upcoming lapses, even at the end of the fiscal year when that plays out. I don't like separating them. If it's the only thing we do, and it's because it's an impasse that we're at, the Senate has already voted 100 to 0. They did a unanimous on this. So every Republican, both Republicans from Utah, were good with this plan, and then they dropped it on our lap at like 3 a.m. Love those senators sometimes, but we woke up and we were frustrated because the funding for ICE and CBP was taken out of that specific bill. But we've got plenty of money to be able to do it. Let's get it going. Hopefully we can have that done in the next few weeks. I have voted to codify the president's executive order on to stop states from giving non-citizen CDLs. There's a real concern when you're commercial driving. You've got to have certain basic requirements when you're in those important jobs of being a truck driver or in transportation. These are important to keep our roads safe. So we've been very supportive of it, and it is an executive order, so we do our best to try to follow up. This is something that's going to get stuck in the Senate, I assume, but we're supportive of it, and hopefully we can see an improvement there. So thank you, Catherine. All right, let's go to Kaysville. And before we do that, again, *3 to jump into question queue. Got 15 or so more minutes left. *6 to join our newsletter. Try to put a personal touch on the newsletter every time we send one out. It's the thing I get the most compliments on out and about with folks. So please, *6 to sign up for the newsletter if you're not already on, and *3 for questions. And let's go to Lanil, I believe. Lanil in Kaysville.
Hi, thanks. This conversation listening is so fascinating to me. My question is in regards to the Great Salt Lake. I don't remember what social media I heard this on, but it was from President Trump, and he said, we're going to save the Great Salt Lake. And I am curious if this has started, and if that has, how will it impact Utah economically? Like, I'm so curious about that.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk real quick about the Great Salt Lake. So excellent question, Lanil. I appreciate it. And yes, you did see that correctly. President Trump, via some communication with Governor Cox, put out, what I often see from President Trump in matters like this, like big, bold type of statement out on social media. And sometimes that's where it ends. And then sometimes they follow up and they kind of put their money where their mouth is, which was really awesome thing that's going on right now. So great work from the governor's team. A lot of this effort started with a couple of individuals in our state legislature. I'll highlight a couple, but there's so many, so I'm going to miss some people. But the former Speaker, Brad Wilson, he championed this issue, and he did it in such a credible way. I was really inspired by what he did. Timothy Hawks from the Davis County area as well. So you're in Kaysville. A lot of discussion about this. You're so close to the lake, the potential dust, and all the negatives that come from a shrinking Great Salt Lake will affect those communities adjacent. It'll affect all of us, but it will be more significant there. So great state legislative. Stuart Adams, these folks were really good about highlighting this and getting out ahead of this as much as we can. We then took the call, my first term, to try to engage as well. And so the federal progression of this was we passed, and no bill is easy to pass in this world, I can tell you that, but we were able to get this done. It's called the Saline Lakes Solutions Act of the Great Basin Region. We call it the Great Salt Lake Bill. And what it does is it engages the U.S. Geological Survey to start to monitor and evaluate, putting in data and attention to this matter. And that process has started. It's not a lot of funding, right? But it was kind of the first step to make sure we're engaging federal agency to draw attention to this matter. I co-opted this with a Democrat from Northern California. His name is Jared Huffman. He has a terminal lake in his district, and it just kind of works. Got that done, and now we're sitting here looking at not just big communication, but a request in the budget from the president's budget. And I spoke today. We'll probably post the back and forth with the Office of the Budget Manager in the White House. His name is Russ Voigt, and we talked to him about this specific issue, about this funding request. So this is the way that it plays out. They put a funding request out there. Congress tries to go about navigating it, and we have more of a chance than we've ever had to get some significant funding. Funding is one aspect of this. We obviously need more water. We did not have a very good winter this year. 3 years ago, we had record winter. So we need to appreciate every angle. Praying about this, dealing with evaporation better, noxious weeds, invasive weeds, doing more conservation. It's got to be an all-the-above approach. And just know that every level of government is involved in this. And we've been thrilled to support things like this, and we've just highlighted it again to the OMB director today of how important this initiative is. I don't have a crystal ball on how this funding request plays out, but we're gonna work towards it. And there's obviously a high number associated with it, but it's a calamity if this dries up. So a lot of negativity goes there. Excellent. Okay, let's go to Lance from, is it Portage? Lance, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Yes, sir.
I kind of got a two-part question. It's like, why is Omar still in there? She's not a citizen of the United States. I said, why is Omar still in there? She's not a citizen of the United States. She's done everything illegal. I can't get Pam Bondi to do anything to help. And the main question I've got is, I've been trying to get one law changed. They changed it, I don't know how many years ago, to where treason and sedition is not a hanging offense. It needs to be brought back as a hanging offense and executed to the fullest. Anybody who tries to pass a gun control law has committed treason that goes against the Bill of Rights. And nobody is being punished for it. We got 123, I think it is, congressmen that voted for gun control. That's a hanging offense. Hang them. Show them we're serious about this here. Maybe they'll start believing us. Because the Constitution's important.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Lance. I appreciate it. Let me highlight a couple things here. Okay, so Representative Ilhan Omar is a citizen. So I just want to clarify that. But I'm really glad that there's been, in the Minnesota world, with the fraud that's taken place, we got to celebrate this as something that we can build on, because I get involved in a lot of these welfare type programs and social programs, and let's take from this as a positive on what we've been able to uncover, and there will be people held accountable for this. And now more people understand it, because this concept of fraud and, of course, waste, more people can galvanize around this. And this is a really bad concept. And the importance, I can't stress, as I've been involved in these from my community experience, the importance of the states being responsible is huge. And that's the area that we need to make sure there's strong enforcement and oversight, because, what took place with Tim Waltz and just not having a handle on the rampant fraud that was going on is it's criminal, and we need to hold people accountable, and I'm glad to see things going in that direction. And it's an area that really frustrates people. Some things that we've been involved with on the Second Amendment is a couple things I'd like to highlight. The Range Access Act. So this is such a great positive way to be able to get more people involved and going in the right direction on this and create a positive out of what is an oftentimes very negative topic out there in the world of policy. The Range Access Act, it ensures access for shooting ranges on public lands. And these, not just the access, but in most or all cases, these are, when I say access, I mean free access that's managed and operated by the BLM. It's a great thing for people to get more practice. The concept of target practice out there where there's littering that takes place and everything, this is a great ethical way to get involved in, and people can do that, and safety measures across the board. And it's just a good way to move this in the right direction. So we've that's been enacted, passed from our office. That was brought to us through some sportsmen and women organizations. We were able to see this through. It's a great win, and hope you can take a look at it. The Hearing Protection Act, HR 404, those things are taking place, and we had some big wins reducing the tax on suppressors in the One Big Beautiful Bill that associated with that Hearing Protection Act. And so these are some neat wins that, of course, don't get a lot of attention and aren't the top headline grabbers for this issue, but some real good work that we've been working on it with. So thank you for calling in, Lance. Let's go to Mara Lee from Honeyville. Mara Lee, are you on?
Hello. It's George Marilee's husband. I'd like to build on what Dan said about the national debt. I wonder if sometime we need to face the fact that entitlements are such a large portion of the expenditures that even though they seem to be sacrosanct, they need to be addressed somehow and a cap put on them, or maybe COLAs eliminated or something done so that we don't run out of money.
Okay, I think I captured that your name was George. If not, it's a great name. It's my son's name. We're going to go with it. If I had the wrong name at the first. But you have nailed it. You're exactly right. You are, very astute in addressing this. And it's tough, and that's the problem. As you mentioned, it's a very difficult thing to grapple with politically. But if we don't deal with and strengthen, because you've got to be able to reform and strengthen these programs, but you've got to get them into whack. And as I mentioned earlier, the only way that I've seen as a possibility to get this worked on is through a fiscal commission. And we've done these before and produced good recommendations and piecemealed some good ideas together. But I think there's a whole approach here where you could create the recommendations, but also make it statutory. You would force a vote on it to enact it. And it's going to be every day that we wait to do something like this, it's going to be harder and harder. In 1965, only 25% of our entire expenditure was mandatory spending. That's where most entitlements exist, in the mandatory spending side. The other side is discretionary, and that was 75% of the budget, and we voted on it every single year. And for 50 years, that portion of the budget has actually remained in check. It does not grow significantly outside of the range of even basic inflation. And we've kept that in check for 25 years, 50 years. But the mandatory side that goes on autopilot, where you never vote on it, grows significantly. So last year, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, we put a work requirement on Medicaid, and that was a significant action, and it hasn't been done, candidly, since the Clinton administration. We've talked a lot about that. There's nothing wrong with this. It's there's some logistical challenges to implement, but that's not a reason not to do it. And so there will be some savings from Medicaid and some growth aspects of it, and that'll be good. But nevertheless, those programs are still growing very strong, and we have more and more folks, seniors that are retiring, and so we have a major demographic conundrum here. We didn't get out ahead of this issue in early 2000s. President Bush tried to be able to invest better, do more individualized investing. There was a really good effort until I think Katrina hit, as I've heard folks talk about it, and it would have been a significant piece to be able to accomplish. But we need to grow the investments better instead of meager government trust funds. We need to probably raise the age. Anybody my age or younger needs to not expect it at the age that it's being provided now. We should come to that realization. And there's a bunch of options as far as the caps and means testing. So those all ideas are out there, but in order to make it a catalyst to do it, it's got to be a debt commission, a Fiscal Commission Act, which we passed last Congress out of the Budget Committee. We almost got it to the House floor. I want to see it take more action. That was another thought but what we're also doing is let's reemphasize how unique these investment accounts for children are going to be. The Trump accounts that I've talked so much about, they are a way that we can make a tiny, small expenditure investment in the future of our kids and get them starting to save via compounding interest, looking forward to their future, and take a look at that program, because that's how we also hedge against some of these potentially failing entitlement programs in the future. Okay, again, please go sign up for our newsletter at *6, and we will take our last caller, I believe. Yeah, we'll take our last caller, but *6 newsletter, interact with us, reach out to our office, and stay in touch. So thank you so much for being engaged. Last caller from Syracuse, Ryan. Ryan in Syracuse. Ryan, I think I hear you. Ryan, any chance you're on? I hear a voice, or I hear a phone buzzing. Ryan, are you hearing us? Okay, let's go to William in Clinton. William, are you on?
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, a couple things. So I met with your staff about a month ago here in Clinton. I waited for Hunter Williams to reach out to me about an issue I had with DFAS, but I got his email. I'll try to drop him an email. I expected to hear from him by now. But my question is about, we had General White up at Hill Air Force Base recently, and he mentioned about wanting to help increase the locality pay for Utah because of the costs increased here quite a bit over the last decade. And I think Senator Curtis was working on this too, or wanting to work on it. So I wonder if there's anything you can do to help General White, Senator Curtis, with getting the locality pay for federal employees increased in Utah.
Yep, we've been working on this for 5 years, and in a way that's a great thing to report right now, but in a way it's also an extreme frustration. So you're totally right on this. Senator Curtis has been great on leaning in on all Hill Air Force Base issues, actually. So we didn't lose. Our team have a great working relationship, and we'll keep on this. The issue with locality pay is we're trying to get to be very clear on what the formulas are, because if you truly look at and make it a data decision, Utah needs more. Needs a better allotment here because of our factors. But the Sentinel mission itself is is incredibly robust, very important, good job creator. And it's clear that we need to make sure we're doing as much as we possibly can to increase that locality pay. This goes through a process, but we've been pushing back on this. We've had some small wins. We've had even like, I remember Dugway Proving Grounds, we were able to get an uptick in some that was well received. We're a little better at making sure that we have active duty military pay increases along the way, but this is clearly an issue because there's other options out there. A lot of people, and I don't know if you're where you are exactly on it. I assume you're a civilian worker in this realm, but because you mentioned you met with some leadership, there's other options, and you're probably engaged in doing this because you care about the mission, and that only goes so far if there's just so many other competitive opportunities out there. So we want people to be able to invest their time and their future in these roles, and there needs to be. So we're fully on. We've worked closely on this. We're taking stabs at it in every single opportunity and every single NDAA that comes up. And the Undersecretary of Defense did ask the Pentagon to explore and look at locality pay more closely, specifically to Utah. And we're also reaching out to try to get recruitment and retention incentive added for all DoD civilian employees in Utah as well. So there's a bunch of different angles that we're playing out here, and we'll keep pushing the department on going in this direction. So thanks for chiming in with that, and all the other awesome questions. We're going to end right on time, which is great. It's a little later back here in DC, so I just appreciate you willing to spend an hour with me this evening. Tax day was a significant thing. It was a lot of work that went into that. It didn't just happen on its own. It could have very well expired, and it would have been a significantly worse tax day for everybody. And I think we're in a good spot, and we're doing the right things for the economy and driving revenue growth, and want to continue to see that year over year. And it's been an honor to be a part of that. It's a tough job. There's so many different angles and things playing out, but I'm just grateful to be able to get involved in this and make a difference wherever I can. And really, best way to know I'm doing that is to be able to interact with y'all. So thank you for the awesome questions today. And again, sign up for our newsletter. You can go to the website, of course, but you can also press *6. The website is blakemore.house.gov. And have an awesome evening. Thank you all.